Hello friends, my name is Brajesh and today I will take you through a brief overview of the English language section of CUET. Now as you all know that in CUET we have three sections and the first section is the English language section. In fact, you can choose any language, but this is for people who will choose English as their language. Now in that we have some topics prescribed by the CUET body. So we'll see the topics that come in the English language section of CUET exam. So let's start. I will take you through all the topics. As per the prescription of CUET body, we have the first topic, that is reading comprehension. Now, reading comprehension says that there will be three types of passages and it would be of maximum 300 to 350 words. And within that, we have three different categories. Now, I must tell you that reading comprehension is one of the most important part of any aptitude exam. In fact, right from your 9th and 10th, you must have done reading comprehension in some way or the other. So this will definitely be a part of your exam. And this is one very, very big component of the English language section of any exam, right? So the reading comprehension passages would be of 300 to 350 words, which means the passage length is of medium or average size. And within that, you have three different categories of passages. This is what they have given. Now, the factual category. Now, we must understand what do we mean by the factual category of passage. Factual passages are primarily based on information and data. So, all the passages that fall in the category of science will come in factual, or business or economics. All these can come in the factual category because they deal with hard facts and data. On the other hand, the narrative passages are more like storytelling, So you might have a passage from history, which is narrative in nature. You might have a passage from some novel or maybe some sort of, let's say, short story. So passages can come from those areas and they would be clubbed in the narrative category of passages. Literary passages are those which, like, for example, poems can be also categorized in literary category. But instead of poems, I think you can expect criticisms on literature, art, and all these things. Such passages will come in the category of literary passages. There might be some overlap, but these are the broad categories of passages that will come in the CUET exam as per their syllabus. Now let's look at some of the other things, right? So the next thing is the verbal ability. Within verbal ability, we have these five categories given to us. The first is grammar. The second is rearranging the parts. The third is choosing the correct word, and the fourth and the fifth is synonyms and antonyms and vocabulary. Now, if you look at synonyms and antonyms, it is generally a part of vocabulary. I mean, you can't separate synonyms and antonyms from vocabulary. They are almost the same thing. There is a great deal of overlap. So you can club these two as one category, and within vocabulary, you might have some other varieties as well. But these are the five different topics that they have suggested. And let's see how these topics are and what are the different things that must be done within these topics, right? So let's go ahead. Grammar. Now, within grammar, you have these two different ways by which we test your English grammar. The first is spotting errors in the sentences given. So you will have 4 to 5 sentences, and they might ask you that out of these 4-5 sentences, pick the one which are grammatically incorrect. The other way of asking this is pick the one that are grammatically correct. So both these two are almost two sides of the same coin, you can say. Now the point is that instead of sentences, sometimes you might have only one sentence, and this one sentence might be fragmented into A, B, C, and D parts, and they might ask you pick the fragment that has error or pick those fragments which are grammatically correct. So again, either you could have 4 or 5 sentences and you have to pick the one that have grammatical error or not have grammatical error, or you might have one sentence broken down into 4 parts and you have to pick those parts which have grammatical error or which don't have grammatical error. The concept is the same, the testing method becomes different. And it is very important that for a subject like grammar, you should be very clear about the syllabus, because grammar has lots of things into it. You might start from parts of speech to articles and determiners and all those things. But primarily speaking, if you want to cover grammar in a very crisp way, these are the topics that you must cover. The first is subject verb agreement, which is one of the most fundamental areas of grammar. Then comes the pronouns, the modifiers. You have parallel construction, verb tense, punctuation. Apart from this, you might add article usage, determiners, prepositions, conjunctions and all those things. But primarily speaking, if you cover all these topics, then you would get a fair grip on all the other topics as well. So if you're preparing for CUET grammar and you want to know which topics I should do, then these are the ones that are fundamentally important and you can ignore the rest. Going to the next topic here, you have rearranging the parts. Again, this is what I have. Rearranging the parts basically means, now please read the question instruction, it is very important. It says, arrange the following 4 sentences A, B, C, D in the right order such that they form a coherent paragraph. Now, if you look here, then I will just use this. Now, generally, you will have these sentences given to you and you will have the option. So, there would be option number 1, option number 2, option number 3, option number 4. So, one will say, let's have A, D, B, C. 2 will say, this is A, okay. So, 2 will say B, C, D, A. 3 will say C, and then you might have A, D, B, and then you might have, let's say, D, C, B, A. So the writing is not good, but usually this is how the options are. And you have to pick the one that is arranging the sentences in the right order. Correct? Now, what happens is, if you look at the sentences here, they are not in the right order, because if you read sentence A, you feel that sentence A is not the first sentence of the paragraph. And subsequently, if you read the other sentences, you realize that they are not making sense the way they have come. So, in what way they should come such that they make sense? If you look at sentence A, it says, his father Karamchand Uttamchand. Now, who this person is, about whom are you talking? So, this is not going to be the opening sentence, because his father, we don't know who his is. Then it says Gandhi's father Karamchand. You might feel that B can be the opening sentence. But there is one more sentence which says Mohandas Gandhi was born. So before you talk about Mahatma Gandhi, his family, his father, his mother, you talk about Mahatma Gandhi first. For example, if you go to an interview and the interviewer asks, please tell me something about yourself. What do? You don't start with your father's name. You start with your name. You say that my name is so-and-so. I was born in so-and-so place. My family comprises of so-and-so, my father, then my mother, then my sister, so on and so forth, right? So whenever you talk or whenever you write a paragraph, there is always a logical order that you follow, correct? So here you will find that C is likely to open the paragraph because it introduces Mahatma Gandhi, and then after that you go to his father, and then you say that the family's religious background was eclectic. Eclectic basically means that broad. So his father was Hindu and his mother was Pranami Vaishnava Hindu family. So you say that the background was eclectic, and then you explain how it was eclectic. So B will come at the end. So 3 becomes the right answer. I'm just giving you a brief introduction about how these questions come. Now this is slightly lengthy question, but what can happen in the exam in CUET is that instead of 4 sentences, you might have just 1 sentence. For example, I would just give you this sentence, and this sentence I will break into 4 parts. Part number 1, part number 2, part number, let's say, 3, and then part number 4. So I will ask you to arrange them in such a way that it becomes a meaningful sentence. So these 4 parts will come in different options, and you have to again choose the right order. So I think that rearranging the parts could be that you have 4 sentences given to you, or you have 1 sentences broken down into 4 different parts, and then you have to arrange the parts in such a way that it becomes a coherent sentence or a coherent paragraph. So this is how the rearranging parts are tested in the exam. We will have sessions on these in which we will be discussing lots of questions on rearranging the parts. So please subscribe to the channel, very important. Let's go and check the other varieties of questions, right? The next kind of question is choosing the right word. Now, This is the word they have used. In fact, this is also a kind of vocabulary. Sometimes choosing the right word could also be tested in the form of idioms and phrases. For example, I give you a sentence and this sentence has a certain context, and in that context a certain idiom or a certain word is used. So you have to choose the option in which the idiom or the word makes complete sense when it is fitted in the sentence, right? So here also you have choosing the right word. Although providing wild chimpanzees with food makes them less dash, so this is something that we have to understand. It makes them less dash and easier to study. It is also known to dash their normal social patterns, correct? Although providing wild chimpanzees with food makes them less dash. So the first thing is, when you look at the word although means that you are trying to bring two contrasting ideas. That is the purpose of the conjunction although. For example, although I am rich, I am unhappy. Although the paper was easy, I don't think I will score good marks. So whenever you put the word although, you bring two ideas which are slightly contrasting in nature. So when you say although providing wild chimpanzees with food makes them less dash and easier to study. So you say and, correct? And then you say easier to study. So something must be happening here such that they become easier to study. So can it be less interesting? Because the word less is very important here. Many people forget the word less. Can less interesting make them easier to study? No, because if something is less interesting, it is not going to be easier to study. So this goes out. If it is less manageable, then how can it be easier to study? So this also goes out, because less manageable will make things complicated, not easier. Less shy. So when you are less shy, that means you are more open, and therefore you might become easier to study. Because if there is shyness, then people run away from you because of shyness. But when there is less shyness, then people come out in the open and meet you. So this can be a very, very good option, because if they are less shy, then they would be easier to study, right? It is also known, so it is also known to disrupt. So here you have less shy and here you have disrupt, correct? So look at this. Although providing wild chimpanzees with food makes them less shy, the positive thing, and easier to study, it is known to disrupt their normal social patterns, the negative thing. The positive thing is it makes them less shy. The negative thing is that it disturbs their normal social patterns, right? So this becomes the right choice because it makes perfect logical sense, while the others are not making sense. We can discuss all the other choices, but this is just an overview. So I will go to the next slide, right? I hope you have understood how choosing the right word can be tested in the exam, right? Chalo. Vocabulary. Now, this is usually, I can say, the last slide, because we have taken different kinds of questions. Antonyms and synonyms can be tested in many ways. They can be tested directly. Usually they are tested directly. So for example, here you have to find the antonyms. I haven't given, just a moment. So here you have antonyms, because these questions are antonyms. So question number 1, the word is boycott. Question number 2, the word is alliteration. So the word is boycott. So the spelling just is wrong here. So we have to boccott. Yeah, the word spelling is correct. So you have to boycott, and which is the opposite of boycott here? Is the opposite of the word boycott extort, or is it underwrite, or is it underbid? Is it stipulate? It is patronize. You have to know the meanings, right? So when you boycott someone, what happens? You throw him out. So for example, India might boycott Chinese goods because of Chinese aggression on the border. So when you boycott, you throw someone out. That means if I'm finding the opposite of boycott, I must pick a word which is bringing in, because boycott means throwing out. The opposite would be bringing in. So which word do you think means bringing in? Extortion. So extortion is not the opposite of boycott. Underbid basically means, bidding happens. So in companies, when you go for contracts, you bid. And if you underbid, basically means the amount that you should have bidden, you have done bidding below that, that is underbid. There is no contextual reference. So this can be easily eliminated. This also is not making sense. Underwrite. Now, many of you might wonder what is the meaning of the word underwrite. Underwrite basically means it happens in the insurance. When you underwrite something, you take the responsibility of the liability. So again, this is technical word and has no contextual relation with the word boycott. So this also goes out. Stipulate means to allot. So by elimination, you know that we are left only with patronize. Now the word patron means father. So if someone acts like your father figure, then he is your patron. For example, artists in the good old days, they needed patrons because the patrons supported the artists, and that is how the artist flourished. So when you support someone, you patronize, right? You become the father figure. So patronize means support, which is the exact opposite of the word boycott, which means to throw out. Correct? So this becomes a very, very easy question, and you know the answer is E. Adulteration, you know adulteration, so the opposite is purification. This becomes a very, very easy question because even if you don't know the meaning of all these words, still you know that the answer is B. So sometimes you arrive at the answer by elimination, sometimes you arrive at the answer by selection. In this question, you selected the right answer because you know that purification is the opposite of adulteration. In this question, you knew that extort cannot be the answer. Underwrite is used in insurance, has technical meaning to it. Underbid again is not making sense. Stipulate is to allot. So what remains is the answer, even if I don't know the meaning of that. So what we have seen today is that there are certain areas of English that you should be good at. RC is one very important area. The second is the verbal ability, grammar and vocabulary. So people who are good in grammar and vocabulary, they have a higher chance of finishing those small questions, which we call as verbal ability questions. So this was just a brief overview of what exactly is the syllabus of CUET, English syllabus, the section 1 syllabus. To do well in that section, you need to focus very hard on vocabulary and parajumbles, that is rearrangement and reading comprehension. Grammar is something that you have to finish some of the topics. If the questions are easy, you can easily get them. If they are not, it becomes tough. That is how you will prepare for this section. Many more videos will come in the future. I hope you liked this session. Please subscribe to our channel and press the like button. Thanks a lot.